In this era, many businesses prioritize profitability, but indeed, fairness and ethics are often ignored or placed lower in people's minds. Good morning, honorable judges. We're Team HKU. I'm Isabel. Together with my teammates, Annie, Esther, and Kelly, we're going to propose solutions for the Fair Employment Agency, FEA, to create increasing social impact in the labor market, to profit without compromising business ethics, and to create a win-win situation for employers, agencies, and workers. FEA was founded in Hong Kong to strike down unfair domestic workers' practices and agencies, particularly targeting at Filipino and Indonesian domestic workers, to find jobs without paying illegal fees for referral. FEA has achieved significant impact over the years by making more than 5,000 workers immune to the $6 million recruitment stat. But how can its good practice further contribute to the workers in Hong Kong, where the number will reach to 3 million in 2044, and further remedy similar situations in other industries? Our team proposes two growth strategies. First, we anticipate the most effective way of growth is to open new branches in Hong Kong, where sufficient control can still be kept. With the increasing presence locally on the fair employment model, FEA can consider going into the caretaker industry in Hong Kong when there is a serious. Lastly, introducing the new tiered service pricing strategy to make the business most profitable. We aim to break even in 2 years with an ROI of 4 times and a high CAGR of 85%. The model aims to accommodate various stakeholders and different issues are addressed. First of all, let's look at some social status issues. According to the Hong Kong Human Rights Monitor, in which 2,500 domestic helpers were interviewed, at least 25% of the helpers have experienced violations of their contracts, and more than 25% had suffered physical and verbal and debt bondage when hiring agencies illegally charge a placement fee, and it is what the model intends to protect. We can see that it is what the model is working towards to improve working conditions. Managerial issues also arise when FEA staff have to closely monitor and manage the relationships between domestic workers and employers. Working on the weekend is required, and this results in disengagement of employees by the unique business model of FEA. So we need enhancement in staff management. Besides, more employers are willing to pay more to look for professional and trustworthy agencies and domestic helpers to entrust their household. Lastly, we have the government labor department, who has been working hard to strike and regulate hiring agencies in their harsh and unjust behaviors to reach fairness. However, due to different reasons,
Can we apply
will
for
help tackle all the problems will be addressed by my teammates. So, how might we, the FEA, establish the fair employment model as a prominent standard in employment by expansion? Annie will talk about our growth model in great detail.
Thank you, Isabel. We are now in the fork of a road looking for a scalable model to accelerate our expansion. Our team highly recommends FEA to go for option 1, organic growth in Hong Kong by establishing new branches directly under the FEA's control. Organic growth means FEA will be redirecting and reinvesting its higher sales and profits to accelerate its entire expansion. Our recommendations is a three-pronged MCI organic growth strategy. M, maximize earnings by way of local branch opening, industrial expansion to caretaker sector, and launching its tier service structure. C, capture market share. It is to be achieved by simultaneously adopting marketing and operational standards to help scale FEA's business as broadly as possible, which my teammate Kelly will explain in greater depth. I, improve management quality, which emphasizes on creating even more opportunities for purpose-driven leadership, to be further elaborated by my colleague Esther. We know for FEA to win in the marketplace, we must first win in the workplace. It is just as simple as that. When deciding to settle down on which of these three models for FEA's growth, we know time is of essence to create systemic change in the market, so timeliness. We know FEA's strong preference to maintain solid control over ethical and legal standards, so ownership. We also understand FEA is to be as efficient as possible in order to increase profit margins, so effectiveness and cost. Then the ultimate question is, where does MCI organic growth strategy lie on the scale of timeliness, ownership, effectiveness, and cost? MCI organic growth strategy carries three distinct edges. Less risky, FEA's management has more control over the resources used to grow. Direct control, FEA's values and culture endure. Both are internal capabilities that explain why FEA is so successful. Cheaper, FEA will rely on internal financing for expansion, so there's no need to pay regular interest. There are, however, a number of caveats, as we shall see, which concern the desirability of option 2 franchising model. First of all, franchising is not outsourcing. FEA needs to put forth great efforts to help owners succeed, including but not limited to training the franchisee, approving location, designing franchise model, and so on and so forth. Second, franchisor-franchisee disputes are commonplace. Territorial encroachment, fraud in inducement, illegal earnings. And worse still, in franchising, where the franchisor, which is FEA in this case, does not have control of the day-to-day management of the franchisee's business, there is often little FEA could do to prevent its failure. Either way will take a heavy toll on FEA's vision and mission to provide a new industry standard that government, industry groups, NGOs across Asia could point to as a benchmark. That explains why option 2 is put at the bottom of our list. And for option 3, further expansion to Philippine business. While it addresses our concern for timeliness, ownership, cost equally well, but we see to it that in order to bring about a systemic change through a replicable business model that all agencies in the market could adopt, FEA cannot focus on simply solving the sending side, not to mention only the Philippines business, fair training center, and honest jobs. Now that we have designed our MCI organic growth blueprint for FEA, the question next is how we scale up across Hong Kong, specifically how many within a 5-year horizon. Upon our investigation, 7 to 8 would be the ideal number. We have identified 5 largest, most reputable agencies in Hong Kong, such as Sunlight Employment Agency, Technic Employment Service Centre Limited, and on average, they have 7.6 branches across Hong Kong. In contrast, FEA as of today only have 2 offices, one in Tsuen Wan and the other one in Sheung Wan, which are the blue dots you can see on the Hong Kong landscape. Then the next question is, we should ask ourselves, where do we go next? Building on our investigation of agencies' practice in Hong Kong, we have noticed a burgeoning trend of industrial agglomeration, which refers to the clustering of large number of agencies in a related area, just like the well-known Sneaker Street ladies' market in Hong Kong. Employers looking for domestic workers would typically visit a single location, with the most number of agencies to handpick their favorite ones. Mong Kok in Kowloon, Causeway Bay on Hong Kong Island, Sha Tin, Tseung Kwan O, and Yuen Long in the New Territories, depicted as red dots in the Hong Kong map, are found to be on the top of their list. We hence recommend for FEA to open up according to such a sequence set out on our map, 1 in each year, and eventually achieving the ideal level of 7 branches across Hong Kong in total by the end of the 5-year horizon. On top of setting up 5 new branches in Hong Kong, we strongly advise FEA to undergo a sectoral expansion to the caretaker industry in the Hong Kong market as well. Aging trend is becoming a major problem in Hong Kong. At present, 1 out of 8 people in Hong Kong are elderly, but in 20 years' time, 1 in every 4. Nonetheless, the local nursing home industry has long been plagued by staff shortage and having huge difficulty achieving new blood. As such, the research brief published by Hong Kong LASHGO has indicated the inevitability of Hong Kong importing foreign labor, taking care of elderly to fill vacancies in local nursing homes in the near future. While Hong Kong has a widely accepted policy for domestic helper import, the need for low-skilled manpower in other sectors, contested by labor unions to retain their empowering power, not to mention the heavy blow of hospitality industry under COVID and political instability. This explains our rationale for suggesting FEA to opt for caretaker industry in Hong Kong. And last but not least, before we conclude our growth strategy here, we hope to highlight the synergy effect of our two strategy, MCI organic growth and industrial expansion plan, specifically in same market Hong Kong. First, operational efficiency in utilization of office space and local talents. Second, transferable knowledge for operation of domestic workers. Third, it is also the perfect timing to unleash our concerned Hong Kong government, social welfare sectors, and Hong Kong citizens, the core values of our fair employment model. So Kelly, what about an evolution in our service structure?
Thank you, Annie. Different commission fee will be paid according to different tiers that the caretaker belongs to. Take Ben as an example. He will be scored on different criteria and employer will have to pay respective commission fees. This pricing strategy will be comprehensively discussed in the following part. Since FEA is already one of the most renowned domestic worker agency in Hong Kong, we also intend to employ a tier structure pricing strategy. We'll now turn to the proposed fee model of the new tier structure pricing strategy. As seen from the left, we intend to divide different domestic workers into 5 tiers. The higher the tier, the more commission the employer has to pay. The commission fees are determined by a scoring matrix on the right, which includes factors like experience, specialized area, language ability, professional qualification, for example, nursing qualification, and age, etc. Let's take the hypothetical person Serena as an example. Serena wished to work as a domestic worker in Hong Kong. Before doing so, she should submit her CV to our company, where we will determine her tier based on the scoring matrix above. After the categorization, we will then proceed to the matching process, where we will match her qualification to the suitable employer. Lastly, we will charge the employer with the corresponding commission in accordance to the helper's tier. The placement fee will not be bought by Serena and will instead be accounted by the employer. From Serena's perspective, this means that she will not have to bear any debt. Unlike the traditional placement fee arrangement, on the flip side, from the employer's perspective, they are more likely to find the most suitable employer, domestic helpers, which is at the same time debt-free. After the pricing strategy, we'll now turn to the way to implement our plans. In light of our increasing domestic worker, we believe that opening branches in Hong Kong will likely be lucrative. We also believe that if FEA spearhead the systematic change in fair employment, it will attract future employers and domestic helpers to use our services. I will now turn to the marketing plan. We have 2 major targeting audience, which is the employer and the domestic worker. FEA aims to be a one-stop service to connect both parties without the need to go through loan sharks or other money lending facilities. We identified that the main goal of the employer is to find high-quality services, while on the other hand, the main goal of the domestic worker is to avoid placement fee and falling into the spiral of credit debt. The first marketing campaign is direct selling. For employer, we aim to directly bring their attention to the downside of employing debt-bound domestic workers. This is so since the domestic helper may well borrow money from illegal institute and may pose certain danger to the employer since domestic helper essentially live in the employer's residence. This is where FEA can step in and help. By paying a slightly higher fee, employers can avoid this trouble altogether. For workers, we aim to build trust with the domestic helpers via sub-recruiters and training centers in the Philippines. Most importantly, promoting that FEA services are placement fee-free, which would in turn save them a lot of trouble in debt. The second marketing campaign is SEO boosting. We aim to create more SEO in both Hong Kong and the Philippines. The purpose of this SEO is to promote the ethnical issues. We believe that this will attract more employers to choose our services and at the same time to draw more domestic helper with higher quality and service level. The third marketing campaign is online and offline promotion. We'll employ the sales force to build our customer management relationship. To put it more into action, we intend to employ media manager to manage the online and offline marketing contents. The main purpose of the media content is to build a positive brand image and increase our brand exposure to the potential clients. The fourth marketing campaign is referral programs. We recognize that word of mouth is powerful and crucial element in developing a business. Hence, we hope that employers and domestic helpers can introduce us to their friends and families. In doing so, employers will enjoy a discount on the commission fee. Similarly, the domestic helper will receive more free training and enjoy a discount on agency fees if they refer FEA to others. Esther will now go through the new management process with us.
Thanks, Kelly. Always treat your employees exactly the way as what you want them to treat your customers is one of the key success of each company. Therefore, we are here to help FEA build a sense of purpose among the staff and ignite their passions by first placing purpose as the core and second, implementing leadership development process. For our first strategies to boost employee sense of purpose, we replace purpose of FEA core by designing and implementing the passion pyramid. From the pyramid, FEA can show that they understand and address different key needs of the employees. For example, if the employee is looking for meaningful work, which is in the 4th tiers, FEA could align the team with purpose by organizing more team building day to foster a closer relationship between them, where a sense of purpose could be found more easily. With this, it is expected that there will be an increasing commitment within the staff. Secondly, we will implement a leadership development process where emotional intelligence will be reinforced. Once the emotional intelligence is reinforced, certain leadership competence could be developed. With these measures, FEA could promote quality staff engagements and alleviate the problems of overstress in the workplace. With all the efforts of FEA, we're sure that systematic change could be brought where other agents are more likely to stop acquiring placement fee and promote fair employment. Next, it's time to show the visualize our strategies in a 5-year time frame. For our local expansion strategies, we will first recruit talents and develop advertisement. The opening of new branch in Mong Kok will take place in 2021 Q3. Afterwards, marketing campaigns will be done explicitly for the first 3 quarters. Evaluation will be done to look for potential markets in other locations in Hong Kong. With research, FEA will open 4 more branches in favorable locations within the next 4 years. For the industrial expansions, R&Ds and advertisement campaigns will be done first, while the official industrial expansion will kickstart in 2023 Q2. For organic growth, we'll launch the leadership development process twice a year, one in Q1 and another one in Q3. We foresee FEA may face 2 key challenges. First, both the local and industrial expansions plan may put staff under pressures. To ensure all staff have stable emotional health, FEA will provide stress management assistance, such as meditation sections during lunch hour to help staff reduce their workplace stress. Second, there may be a change in labor export policies. To mitigate, FEA must be well prepared to anticipate any unexpected change, and hence, continuous market risk analysis should be carried out to monitor the macroeconomic situations of the country. With this, FEA could expect some of the changes in advance. What's more, FEA should diversify its business to other neighboring countries to lower its risk. For instance, FEA could explore new markets for descending sites, such as Bangladesh, where the supplies of migrant domestic workers and caretakers are high. Next, you may wonder if our strategies is a worthy investment. With our holistic strategies, FEA can achieve the break-even point within 2 years, and it has 4.08 times ROI. Here, we would also like to stress upon that the negative NPV in 2002 is brought by the huge R&D costs in the new business line. With this, we can conclude that the project has positive NPV, and therefore, FEA should definitely invest in the project. Next, for the revenue analysis, based on the key assumptions on the left, FEA could obtain a 85.6% CAGR from 2022 to 2025. For the cost analysis, FEA will face an increment in the cost as a huge R&D cost and other variable costs will be incurred. The analysis is calculated based on the assumptions listed on the left. For example, we assume the difference in price per square feet for our branches, and we also assume the cost of R&D. We are determined to help FEA achieve its goals, which is to promote fairness and ethics. At the same time, we're eager to help FEA a profitable business where expansion is feasible for further spread its influential message.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you very much. Now it's time for Q&A. We have 15 minutes. Now countdown, start from now, 15 minutes. Let's hear the first question.
Maybe I can start first. Hi, it's Raymond. Thank you for the presentation. It was really well done. Love the graphics and the pictures right now, and it's kind of put a smile on everybody's face. My first question is like, in one of the slides, you looked at the 3 different strategies. I didn't see much difference between the one that you chosen for branches versus like Philippines. So how did you land on one versus the other? Why couldn't we do both?
Thank you, Mr. Wong,
yeah,
for your
the one with
question.
the stars. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Yep, I think I can further elaborate on that. We understand that this time we are projecting for growth for FEA within 5 years' time. And in the Hong Kong market alone, we are also suggesting a 2-pronged strategy, including organic growth, meaning opening 5 branches within 5 years' time, not to mention the sectorial growth, catering to the caretaker industry. So we understand that in its nature, staff has previously complained about the strenuous nature of work, having to work on weekends as well. So we want to take things one at a step. So for now, we'll primarily focus on the Hong Kong market. And part of the concern was due to the right timing and also cost efficiency, because Hong Kong office can be used for both purposes. However, if we have to expand on both geographical market at the same time, we can foresee the pressure put on top of our frontline staff as well as the management level would be higher. So among the 3 options, we prioritize for the first one. However, Philippines is also on the second of our list.
Okay, thanks.
Just a related question. I mean, I also had the same kind of thought as Raymond had, but I'm coming from a different perspective, right? You are expanding in Hong Kong and you're keeping the Philippines business as is, right? So there may be a demand supply asymmetry as the Hong Kong business suddenly grows, right? So you may not be able to recruit enough in Philippines and supply for the demand in Hong Kong. Did you think about that? And I have a couple of other questions. Why do we need branches? I mean, real estate in Hong Kong, you know Hong Kong as well because you've put rent, etc. is so expensive, and your P&L is showing, that. Why do we need branches, and why can't we do this? I mean, they already have the app. Why don't we focus on developing that further and doing this through a digital kind of a platform? Thirdly, did you consider specific risks about elderly care? And if yes, what are those risks and how can you mitigate those risks?
Thank you for the 3 questions. So if I may summarize the questions to be answered, first of all, is regarding the supply and demand side. Would there be any mismatch or the inadequacy of numbers? And second is about the necessity for opening 5 branches instead of other remedies, for example, digital marketing. And last but not least is the risk concerning the elderly care aspect. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I think I will first answer the first 2 questions, and then for elderly care, perhaps my other colleagues, for example, Isabel, can supplement. Regarding the supply and demand side, I have a point specifically to add for the caretaker industry. Although I've cited the LASHCO report indicating that there's generally a consensus among the Hong Kong market, given the policy research and also consultation done in the Hong Kong market, including the social welfare sector and general citizens and also policymakers. Is currently not a legislated policies put forward to fully in support of such idea. So our recommendations here is for a future aspect. I would say here as a long-term horizons perspective on top of the expanding Hong Kong branches solely dedicated to contribute to our domestic workers alignment service. So in that regard, that's why we put the expansion in Philippine side on a lesser perspective, because it's for a slightly more futuristic plan. And then second, for the necessity to open office space, in truth, we have done a market research depending on yes, that's right, Kelly, is the prior slide. On the industry practice of the major agencies in Hong Kong, these 5 are the largest scale one, and they are also considered one of the best comparable to FEA. And as we see, their number of branches is greatly larger than us, given that we only have 2 at this time. And also, because of the industrial agglomeration in the geographical aspect, customers usually go for these agencies directly to talk to the agency, sign documents, and so on and so forth. So just with 2 offices at the moment, we are unable to tackle the different spots in Hong Kong, the geographical spots in Hong Kong. Specifically in Kowloon right now, we have no branches at all. So that's why I also advocate for Mong Kok as the first strategic point to be relied upon. And as we can see, digital contracts or digital negotiation, maybe in the future sense, make quite a lot of sense. But at least for now in the Hong Kong market, geographically visiting those spots directly, signing document is still the majority or the mainstream practice. That's why we see the need to really have a physical branch over there, scattering across the major zones in Hong Kong. Perhaps Isabel, would you like to talk about the risk of elderly care?
Yeah, sure. So we see that for the risks for elderly care in Hong Kong, there may be competition with our current hiring of domestic helpers, because Hong Kong currently have like a scheme that the foreign domestic helper can try to be caretakers in the elderly home, and which will incur some competition with our current business model. But I see there will be the mitigation for this concern would be because as currently there's a lot of different in other countries there are also similar schemes, and we see that there are more domestic helpers or more foreign workers from Indonesia or Philippines. They're having higher qualification, and we don't think the demand or any competition will arise, because although they are similar in nature, but there are the qualification has a big part in this changing schemes, and therefore we think that won't affect our current business, but indeed will attract more qualified workers to help Hong Kong's elderly service as well as the caretaking industry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for what I think is a very, very good presentation. You've covered a lot of ground. It's very evident that you've done a lot of research and you've aligned it very well with both what the competition is doing, where they are operating, and also what the local government is trying to achieve socially as well. So thank you very much for that. One of the key aspects that you talked about was that financially this would be sound. You talked about the ROI. So in terms of the ROI, I'd like to refer to the structured approach for your tiered pricing. There's a slide where you talked about tiered pricing and the structure, and yes, I think this is the one, right? So how are you going to market this and make it attractive and palatable for employers to actually subscribe to this? Where is that differentiator there between FEA and your competitors?
Maybe I can answer the question. Thank you for the question. For a traditional agency, usually they pay a fixed commission fee no matter what the domestic helper can do. For example, some domestic helper may have a university or professional qualification, like nursing qualification, or they got some kind of university qualification so that they can speak English to the kids. But usually for traditional agency, they will have the same commission fee. So what differentiates our company, FEA, with our competitor is that we promote that we can provide better quality and better skilled labor for the employer, as well as debt-free domestic helper to the employer if they are willing to pay higher price. So by separating the domestic worker into different tiers, we collect different commission fee from the employer. For the marketing campaign, the marketing campaign will be the same as the Evan mentioned, like the direct selling. So when we'll do SEO boosting to tell all the employers that we are separating domestic helper into different tier and that they can get better quality domestic helper if they're willing to pay more and according to the tier price. And for direct selling, we'll also sell the employer the advantage of doing a tiered structure pricing so that they understand that when they are willing to pay more, then they can match with better domestic helper as well as having a debt-free domestic helper so that the danger of loan shark or illegal institute chasing loan from domestic helper can be eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Just a point of caution, I'd say, is in your tiering, you have age, you have marital status, right? So I think that's probably something you want to avoid from a equal opportunity perspective. But I do get your point about differentiating your service to get to give employers what they want. Yeah, so I get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a bit over 3 minutes. We can take one more question.
What can I just ask this question? Because you guys had a technical glitch in the beginning. Do you feel that there's anything that you weren't able to cover that you want to use this time to cover now?
I think we can cover more on the financial side. Maybe Esther can elaborate more on the financial calculation.
Okay, sure.
Don't worry. Don't worry if you don't have anything else. I just want to give you this chance because you had that technical glitch, right? So
yes, actually, Kelly, can you go to Appendix 2? So from this appendix, as you can see, this mainly talks about the revenue and also the expense for our first strategies, which is the local branch opening. And for the revenue, how we can come up with these figures is that we assume that we can actually collect $11,280 from each employers as the agency fee. It is because we calculate the average based on the tier structures. And also we assume that we can have 60 cases per month. And how we can assume it has 60 cases is based on the reference that FEA have right now, which is around 59 or 60 cases per month. And that's why we have come up with the 2 million revenues for 2021 Q4. And then for the 2022, we also assume that these assumptions carry on across the 5 years. And for the rental expenses, actually, Kelly, can you go to the Appendix 1 so that I can share the rental expense? Yes, so for here, you can see that we will open 5 different branches within the 4 years, and we have searched for the price per square feet. And from here, you can see that actually for Yunnan, we have calculated that the price per square feet would be 29, and for different areas such as Causeway Bay, it would be 35, and for Mong Kok, it will be 44. And that's why we have come up with this rental expense. And since we are going to open our branches in every Q3 of the years, and that's why we have multiplied it with 3 months as our expenses. And for the salaries, yes, on the Appendix 2, on the employee salaries, we expect that we will hire 5 employees for each branches, and each of the employees will get 15,000 salaries per month on average. And next, on the Appendix 3, it is about the revenue and expense for the industrial expansions. And as we are going to actually launch these expansions in 2023, you can see that there isn't any cost in 2021. But for 2022, we are going to launch our R&D so that we can prepare ourselves for these expansions. And here we assume that the R&D will be around 40% of the revenue, is because we actually benchmark it with the workplace and also the competitors, and that's why we come up with this kind of numbers on R&D. And for the for the 2023, we also assume that we may have around a certain numbers of caretakers, and also we have
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's the end of Q&A. Thank you, judges, for the great questions, and thank you, students, for taking questions.